I'd like to call the city council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Carlson.
Oh, it's green.
Kurtek.
It's green. It's green.
Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no administrative update today, so we're going to roll right into TPD. All the TPD items, we're going to take them back to back to back and then continue on. Yes, sir. You ready?
I'm ready, sir.
Go ahead.
On 25?
Yes. 24, Councilmember Vieira said the, motion to receive and file then. All right, can we get a motion to receive and file
So moved.
24? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Carlson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 25, yes, sir.
Good morning, council. Those in attendance. All right, actually, yes, afternoon. Everybody have a good lunch?
Yes.
All right. I didn't go to lunch. Maybe that's what I was still thinking this morning. All right, item number 25. My name is Rich Mills. I'm a major with the Tampa Police Department Special Operations Division, and aviation falls under my command. So I am here to, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a brief. I have 4 short videos to show you to kind of give clarity to what we do and why we do it. And then, obviously, we will close everything out.
Yes, sir.
Could I just set this up real fast? I don't know, others have had feedback. I got feedback, a lot of feedback from the community. We heard some folks this morning, and some folks have sent us spaghetti models of all the crisscrossing and everything. And I know I've had some complaints south of Gandy, but East Tampa, folks who live around East Tampa say they feel like the helicopters are just going over too much. It seems like a constant thing, and it keeps them from sleeping. And so, anyway, with that context, if you could help answer their questions and see if there's anything we can do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
No, go ahead,
Before I
sir.
start? Okay, Tampa Police Aviation Unit has 3 helicopters. One is a Bell 206 L4, which is our 610, and 2 Bell 407s, which is our 411 and 512. The aviation unit is made up of 6 pilots and 6 tactical flight officers that each work 1 shift per day, and then we have 2 different cycles, so 4 on, 4 off. Our pilots and tactical flight officers must fly mandatory flight hours in order to maintain flight pilot certifications, and Tampa Police does restrict proactive flight hours to the following. During the day, they are on call only, so when they're needed, they go up and they respond accordingly. In the evenings, it's 1 hour, they're up proactive, and then the rest, obviously, they're on call, and then midnights, it's 2 hours, and then obviously they're on call at all times to respond to and be as effective as possible for law enforcement officers on the ground. That is their primary mission, to support the law enforcement officers that are on the ground. Our police helicopters play a vital role in reducing crime and enhancing public safety. With their unique advantage point and aerial capabilities, police helicopters provide invaluable support in our crime-fighting efforts. By patrolling from above, police helicopters can quickly identify and track criminal activity, locate suspects, and gather crucial intelligence in real time. Through the use of helicopters, we effectively prevent car chases and foot pursuits that pose significant dangers to both police officers and innocent community members in the vicinity by minimizing the potential for collision, injuries, and property damages. The Tampa Police Aviation Unit supports the Uniform Patrol Districts citywide by statistically tracking real-time crime trends and inherently responds to areas with the most crucial needs. Tampa Police helicopters maintain altitudes of 700 feet during the day and then 1,000 feet or higher at night. This is to minimize noise on the ground. Additionally, Tampa Police helicopters are utilized to conduct mandatory critical infrastructure checks at McDale Air Force Base, Port Tampa, the Channelside area, and the Port of Tampa. Other helicopters from different agencies, hospitals, etc., do fly through East Tampa regularly and fly at a little bit lower altitudes. Normally their altitudes are anywhere from between 500 and 700. A recent complaint from a concerned citizen, Councilman Carlson, we received one of the same complaints. A recent complaint from a concerned citizen provided data for 2 of our police helicopters operating in the East Tampa area. One was from our Bell helicopter 411, which depicts being 1,309 feet. And then our Bell helicopter 610 depicts being at 1,920 feet. To put that in perspective, 1,309 feet is approximately 5 city blocks or 4.36 football fields, while 1,930 feet is approximately 7 city blocks or 6.4 football fields. If you can just take that in perspective and kind of translate that from the ground to the air, that's how high they were. The important are some of the hours from January 1st, 2023 to May 31st, 2023. The Tampa Police Aviation Unit accumulated a total of 602.7 flight hours. These flight hours were distributed as follows: 170.7 during the day, 129.8 hours in the evening shift, which is our evening shift is 2 p.m. to 1:25 a.m., and then 302.2 hours during the midnight shift, which is 7 p.m. to 6:25 a.m. Notably, these flight hours have yielded numerous success stories, which you'll see here in a few minutes, through the city of Tampa. From January 1st to August 2nd, Tampa Police Aviation Unit has assisted with the apprehension of 451 suspects and the recovery of 104 firearms. So that's just this year alone. This year alone, they assisted patrol in arresting 451 and recovering 104 firearms. The presence of police helicopters significantly contributes to the quick apprehension of suspects, successful recovery of critical evidence, and crime prevention. The operational effectiveness of our Tampa Police Aviation Unit highlights the valuable contribution to keeping our city safe. Now, next we'll go ahead and I do have 4 videos to show you. They are hours long. Obviously, I've cut them down a little bit. I'm going to start them. They've already started. I'm going to start them where it's critical to your impression. So what you're going to do is I'm going to give you a brief, and then I'm going to play it for you. What you're going to do is on this one, you're just going to focus on obviously the individual in the middle, and I will tell you what was it about. This is in fact in District 2 in Sector D. Patrol officers attempted a traffic stop at Bush and 14th. The vehicle fled, and initiating unit immediately deactivated their equipment and broke line of sight. Aviation located and continued to follow the vehicle, providing location and direction of travel until the driver abandoned the vehicle at a nearby residence in Sector D. Aviation directed officers in, and they arrived. As they arrived, the driver fled on foot. Aviation maintained surveillance and updated his location. While fleeing on foot, the driver was observed burying an object. Officers were able to eventually take the suspect into custody safely, and the buried object was later determined to be a firearm, and an additional firearm was located inside the vehicle that he fled from. The driver was charged with armed trafficking and methamphetamines, flee to elude, felon in possession of a firearm, carrying a concealed firearm, evidence tampering, possession of firearm during the commission of a felon, and he was also out on federal probation. And this will only take about 10 seconds. Obviously, this is at night. This is the infrared. Everything around there is dark, and right there you can see him kneeling down and burying something. And this is in somebody's backyard. So obviously that poses a threat. If there's children in the house, they go out in the backyard, they find a gun. If we don't recover that gun, God knows what can happen. Obviously, aviation is still watching him, giving direction to the ground units. And then even more importantly, after this, the aviation's able to direct uniform patrol into this individual, and he's taken into custody without incident. It could have been very differently if he would have had a gun on him. And they actually came into contact with him about 4 minutes later.
And we're able to recover the weapon that he buried?
Yes, sir. The second video I have District 3 attempted a traffic stop while on a white Charger at North 22nd Street and East 22nd Avenue. Obviously, this is in fact District 3 and Sector F. The vehicle immediately fled at a high rate of speed. Aviation was already overhead, and they maintained overwatch, providing location and direction of travel. After several minutes, the vehicle came to a stop at North 32nd Street and East 5th Avenue, and the driver fled on foot. During the time, he is seen throwing a firearm. Obviously, as soon as he fled, uniformed patrol officers backed off. They shut down all their equipment and just let Aviation take over, and they followed him from the air. Again, this is at night, and they do have him on infrared. A perimeter was established and K-9 was utilized in order to take the suspect into custody. And once again, you will see him when he goes, and I'll walk you through it, but eventually you're gonna see him throw a firearm out of his left hand, and it goes over a fence into another yard. He's running right now. He actually goes underneath the semi-truck. In a couple minutes, he'll pop out on the other side. He'll go along the semi-truck, and as he gets to the rear of the semi-truck, you'll see the item come out of his left hand. Pop back out. You're about to see it right there. They are able to call this out to the ground units coming in, and literally 30 seconds later, units come on scene and take him into custody safely.
And he can hear the helicopter at this point
Yes, sir.
regardless. So he knows he's just waiting it out. And that's one of the officers?
That this is our officers coming on scene. He obviously gives up, lays down, and we take him into custody safely. Again, had he had the firearm readily available, it could have turned out very differently.
And the firearm was then found wherever he tossed it from?
Yes, sir. Aviation was able to mark it exactly where they see it. They can actually pin drop. So they pin drop, and then they can walk the officers into it, and they did so that night. The next two videos is actually one incident, but two separate videos. It's too large to have one video, so we broke it down again. We're only going to see a very short version. This actually initiated in District 1 in Sector A. It started in West Tampa and then crossed over into the far western edge of Sector E at MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and the Hillsborough River. On this one, District 1 SAC requested assistance on a robbery home invasion at the 2900 block of West Walnut. Surveillance was established on a suspect vehicle in the area. Aviation maintained overwatch on the vehicle, where they observed four suspects associated with the vehicle. The vehicle went mobile, and the first sight of patrol vehicles fled at a high rate of speed. Obviously, again, Uniform Patrol was able to back off. They didn't chase. There was not a chase. It was not a pursuit, and Aviation was able to maintain visual surveillance from overhead. The aerial visual was maintained of the suspect vehicle as it drove at a high rate of speed. The vehicle actually crashed at a dead end in the 4200 block of North Myrtle Avenue, and all four subjects fled on foot. Aviation initially stayed with one of the four suspects and utilized K-9 for an apprehension, and then a perimeter was established, and a yard-to-yard search was conducted. While doing that, Aviation was actually then able to locate two additional suspects that were hiding in the water of a creek. The two suspects were taken into custody. So one did elude. We weren't able to capture all four. We captured three of them, and then three firearms were recovered as a result of this investigation. So the first one is the individual that they stayed with initially. You will see that, again, this is at night. Nobody else could see these suspects running. We didn't have daylight to help us out, so Aviation was vital in the apprehension of this. You can see the suspect, he's actually walking through backyards. So residents' backyards, he's walking through. They just did a home invasion. He's going along the river. still walking through backyards.
And what we're looking at is water here to the left.
To the left is water, yes, sir.
Huh.
And then you see him pop out, goes on somebody's private dock, and then gets inside of their private boat.
Huh. Look how clear that is, considering it's infrared and how the water reflects. I've never seen it like this. See, that's the thing. I mean,
So-
he's trying to hide, but you know,
So
you got him.
he was successful in hiding. Had it not been for aviation, we would not have found him. Aviation was able to, direct units in. It took them a while to get there because obviously they had to go through yards and several obstacles, but they were able to, actually take him into custody, without further incident. So this one, if you notice, in the very center of the screen where the X is at, you'll see two tiny, just to the right of the X, you'll see two tiny little dots. Those two tiny little dots are people. So obviously Air Service is up. These are the two individuals that did the robbery. Two of the four. You can see the area, and this is why I wanted to start it here, because you can see the area that they would have had to search without aviation. And with aviation, you'll see what happens.
And you're here at about what, 1,200 feet, I see, or
Yes, sir.
1,000 feet? So you're very high up. Okay.
About 1,200, yes, sir. So again, they orbit, they circle. They have to do that in order to maintain constant surveillance of that person. That's where a lot of the complaints say they're circling or they're orbiting. That's what they're doing, but they kind of have to do that. Again, you can see them. So it comes into play. You can see the officers down off to about the 3 o'clock right now. They're telling them where to go. They have the canine there.
Yeah, you can see them on the
Obviously,
right.
they go along the water's edge. The individuals know that they're there by now. One of them sits up, puts his hands up right there. And then they're safely taken into custody also without further incident. Again, in the end of this, 3 firearms were recovered.
I mean, that was like 10 seconds. You see the officers on the right with the canine, and not even.
This whole thing took about an hour.
Yeah, but once
So-
you pinpointed, you know, and they came in.
Yeah, but and I'm glad you said that because that gives perspective of how large of an area and how they're able to pinpoint so much. If we would have ever found these individuals, it would have been tough. It would have been really tough because you can't really see it, but they were actually laying in the water, from about their shoulders down were submerged. So just their shoulders up were above water.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. I think you did a great job. You've done a great job of demonstrating this. As a video game player, I'm fascinated with the videos too, but you've done a great job of explaining why we need them and what the unique role is that the helicopters play. By the way, I don't think anybody who's spoken to me, including the folks that spoke this morning, who I had not spoken to, I don't think any of them challenged whether we should have helicopters. I think the only issue is they're asking, is there anything that TPD or the city can do at night to lessen the impact on, you talked about the height, which is higher than normal. I'm surprised you're able to see from that far away. But it's just a request from the public, not to get you to not get criminals, because everybody wants that. But is there anything you all can do to just try to lessen the impact on people who are trying to sleep?
Yes, sir. And in closing, you know, I've been in the city my entire life. I grew up in South Tampa. I went to Sharon-Monte Elementary, Monroe Middle, graduated from Robinson High School. Both my kids were born and raised in Tampa. I've been with the Tampa Police Department 29 years in November. This community means everything to me, everything. And I think I echo that of every police officer. I like to think I'd echo that of every police officer on the Tampa Police Department. So we can always do better. To answer your question, yes. And I will ensure you that I will go back and I will make sure that we look at every single incident. If we get a complaint, we're going to investigate that complaint. And if there is a complainant where it has a phone number or or an email or something, I make sure that either my chief pilot or the sergeant of the aviation unit personally gives them a call so they can research exactly what they're dealing with or the complaint that they have, and we can explain why we were doing what we were doing.
If we were replacing helicopters at some point, is it better to use quieter helicopters, or is it worth spending more money on quieter helicopters, or is the sound actually a deterrent for people you're chasing?
So, one of our helicopters is the 610, so the Bell 207L4, the 610, it's a little bit louder than the other two, 407, 411 and 512. It is up for being replaced. The Bell 610 is very old. So hopefully in the next couple of years, city council will approve us getting a new
Get a millage
helicopter.
increase, Bill.
How much does one
Look what you
cost?
just opened yourself up for.
How much does one cost?
I would have to get back to you on the
Okay.
exact cost. I
All right.
want to say like $3 or $4 million. But we do have like a buyback program. We're looking at several different options, but I can certainly put a proposal together for you and present that.
Thank you for putting all the time into this.
Councilmember Clendenin, and then Councilmember Miranda, and then Councilmember Henderson.
I mean, I can inject some information as a subject matter expert. So many people know it. For 30-plus years, I was air traffic control, and I was I was not only an air traffic controller in the control tower and the radar approach control at Tampa International. I was also an air traffic manager. So at the last half of my career, I'm on the desk. So I was on the receiving end of the phone calls that came in on these helicopters, all the helicopters and aircraft that operate. So, and I fielded some of those calls too, and I explained to some of the constituents that were concerned about it. I said not one time of literally hundreds of phone calls and we investigate everyone as well, did I find that nobody was joyriding. Everybody was doing a mission, especially at nighttime. You know, and I said, and as he said, there's a lot of other helicopters. We have helicopters in town that for the power companies that follow power lines. You've got the emergency medical helicopters. You've got television helicopters. You've got corporate helicopters. There's a lot of helicopters flying around. I think one of the things that really is interesting, especially someone who's in an air traffic background, is the noise of air traffic and these distances. So when you talk like 1,000 feet, it seems like, and I know we led on to believe about how big it is, but when you're on the ground looking straight up, it's really not that far. It's a lot closer than you think. And then we have at Tampa International, because it's a high density air traffic environment that we control air carrier aircraft, the airspace is classified and controlled. So within a radius of Tampa International, all of the aircraft are controlled by Tampa International. You can get right outside of, there's a ring you can get outside of, but then even at that point, to be uncontrolled, you have to stay at a low altitude to be segregated from the other air traffic. So it's not just the helicopter flying on its own. Realize that we keep them at altitudes because there's another airplane flying over them. So there's air traffic safety involved as well to make sure that they're not encroaching on air carriers that are landing or taking off from Tampa International, or traffic that is crossing over the top of Tampa International, the general aviation type of traffic from east to west that are transitioning from Pinellas County, like over to Lakeland. We do a lot of that transition right over the top of Tampa International, which puts you in the vicinity of when you're on the east side of where these helicopters are. But like I said, I fielded so many phone calls. Everyone is on a mission. We facilitate and work with, when you're in air traffic, you facilitate and work with law enforcement for them to accomplish those missions, because they are, they're important, and we briefed them, and I know that we're constantly in communication with them. Air traffic control is, so thank you.
Councilman Miranda, then Councilman.
Thank you very much, Major, for your fine reporting. You know, I understand the facility. I live close to the airport, and I live close to another facility that's a hospital. There's not one day that I don't hear a helicopter flying at whatever, 700 or 1,000 feet. However, last week, I think it was, I heard one that was really, really, really loud. And I mean, like if it was my living room. I didn't go outside, but I did after. I said, well, what is it? I couldn't see it. Well, that night I turned into one of the TV channels, and that was a something that had to do with a sports event that was handling, it was an Apache attack helicopter. And if you think that doesn't make noise, that makes noise if you're in another county.
Yeah.
I mean, the noise was deafening, and you can see it was something that, don't mess with me, I'm a big boy. Because the noise alone scared me. And I understand the public's need, but what if something happens and we didn't have a helicopter? And one of my family, or one of the police officers, or one of their family got hurt, injured, or worst of all, murdered. What then? What's the price? What's the price we have to pay so we don't have any noise? That's what bothers me about reality of life. At what event do we say yes or no? Do we say no more, and then what? That there shows me, not only that one, all the ones that you have, and I would imagine that flight controller can tell you how far the helicopter went, how long it's in the position, how much circles it did. So it's just, I understand nobody likes to be agitated or aggravated at something, but what if it was somebody in their family that got hurt, or in your family or my family? What if that happens? Is the value of a little noise going to bring them back? I don't think so.
Sure.
So what are we to do is the question. That's all. Thank you.
Councilwoman Henderson.
Yes, Councilman Miranda, I really appreciate you saying what you said. This is probably the first time that I probably will provide a little bit of entertainment in terms of my comment, but the real issue here is public safety, and sometimes public safety is noisy. And this level of complaint, I just don't actually understand it. I lived in Tampa Heights. I've heard helicopters before, especially early on. A lot of people know Tampa Heights has changed over the years. And so initially, yes, it is noisy, but you're out there for a reason. I don't think that we just fly helicopters around in the city of Tampa, police helicopters for fun at night. There has to be some sort of issue at hand, just like the videos that you showed us. And I just think sometimes we need to have realistic conversations with our public by saying it's either one or the other. Do you want the public safety, which requires some noise? We don't need to buy a $3 million helicopter that's quiet just because you're going to lose some sleep. This is ridiculous that we have to have this. I respect the fact that the public is complaining, but public safety is the priority. And if you're out there, what I would say to TPD is if you're out there with helicopters, let there be a reason, like the videos that you showed us, and we can back that up. And the public, it's not about deciding. We're going to choose public safety over the inconvenience of a little bit of noise. I think everyone can understand that. And, this is just not a city council problem.
Councilwoman Hertz.
I guess I'm just going to disagree because I think that people, sleep is very valuable to a lot of people, and it seems like a particular neighborhood is impacted more than others. And so my question, you mentioned during your presentation that there's patrolling for 1 hour a day during the day and 2 hours at night.
Yes,
So that does not, it seems like people have said that there's a reason you're up there, but patrolling is just up there to be up there, correct?
That's usually when they do all of their checks, their critical infrastructure checks during the evening hours and during the midnight hours.
So if you're doing those types of checks, I would expect then, if you're just simply patrolling, that you would be patrolling all 4 sector or all 4 districts of the city equally in order to do that.
Usually,
But with the maps we've seen, it doesn't seem that is happening. Can you explain why you aren't visiting each district equally if you are simply patrolling?
so I don't know what maps you're referring to, ma'am.
The map that we were all sent of the
It was like a spaghetti model.
spaghetti model of where the,
So that's one flight.
oh,
So
okay.
that's only one flight. So that helicopter went up and it actually shows it coming from their hangar and then going to an incident and doing, that's why I was explaining orbiting. So you'll see like flight patterns where they go straight out and in, But when you see the spaghetti model tighten up to that real tight orbiting, so they're in one area, it looks like, that's when they're actually orbiting because they see something, they're actually responding to something. That should indicate that they're there for a reason. So those individual emails that people are sending, that's one flight. So that's just one flight, which could be an hour or it could be 20 minutes.
And I guess my question though, that with this patrolling where you're checking infrastructure or doing stuff like that, why does it have to be at midnight if all you're doing is checking infrastructure? Is there a way that we can move those to the daylight hours? So if all you're doing is checking infrastructure, you could do that during the day to not interrupt people's sleep.
We can certainly look into that. I don't have that answer for you right now. I don't know specifically why they may have a reason. Our pilots and our aviation unit may have a very specific reason why they do that and why they only have 1 hour during the evening hours and 2 hours during the midnight hours. I don't know the exact reasoning, but I can definitely find it out.
I think that's one of those things that's just that great give and take we can do with our community, because if you're saying, obviously, if you're up there for a reason, that's one thing, but if you're using these hours of patrol, if we could make sure, and if it's simply looking at infrastructure, if we could do that during, our non-quieter hours, I think that would help the public.
I do know that in part, I know the answer. I don't know the full answer, but I will get that. But in part, what they do is, and I said it in my brief, where they look at crimes statistically, in what area, what times they're happening, what days they're happening. So what they do is they try to pick out when the highest crime's going on in the city and where the highest crime's going on in the city. And that's when they try to do those very, very short hours of mandatory, the 1 hour in the evening and the 2 hours at midnight. So in other words, they're looking at the data, and traditionally, we have more crime during the nighttime hours. We have more crime from 7 at night or 9 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. So obviously, they're only allowed to put so many hours on the helicopter. So if they don't go up at all one day, then they're grounded. So that's why they build in that mandatory hours to go up 1 hour during the day and then 2 hours at night. So they're really only up 3 hours a day. That's not a lot of time. That's how they get their time in. That's how they maintain their certifications.
Sure.
But there is a very pinpointed reason, because they look at the statistics on where the crime's taking place, the hours of the crime's taking place, and the days, and that's how they deploy.
And I absolutely respect that, but I think what the public is asking is, if you're one of those people that lives in that area and you're up every night over their house and they're doing what they're supposed to do as a citizen, and they would really just like to sleep so they can get to work. If we can simply just look at how often we're over a certain area every night, just, when you're looking at those considerations of where you're going, also be considerate of the places you're going and the people that live there that want just the balance of safety, but also, being able to sleep. So, again, I'm getting complaints about this as well. So I would just like to be able to say that we're looking at it, we're considering when the hours that we can get that patrol time in. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Miranda, Clendenin, then
Thank you. I believe in the next few years, very shortly, this is going to be a moot question. We're going to have electric helicopters. You already have some electric planes that I see in Canada that are trying them out, 4-engine planes, and they're doing very well on test runs. So sooner or later, more likely sooner than later, this is going to be a moot question, because you're going to have helicopters that are not propelled by any type of chemicals or gas or whatever you want to call it. They're going to be solely electric, and you're not going to hear them. And that solves the problem. But again, I don't want to see, what if you do what is stated and you don't do that area because you've already been there, but yet there's a hot spot and you don't go? What happens? Somebody's murdered in that area when you were not in that vicinity to get there. Who's responsible?
Essentially, we are.
I always think of the what ifs. What if I don't want to take the chance? What if do I do take the chance? Those are the things that you have to consider, in my mind anyway. A life is worth 10,000 hours of noise in a helicopter, because you're not going to get that life back. That's it, thank you.
Councilman Clendenin, then me, then Vieira.
Sorry.
Anybody else?
Councilman Miranda, I would love to tell you that that's true, but I think it's gonna get much worse because drones are coming.
Oh, yeah.
And the drones are loud, and the procedures are in place, and they're gonna be very low, and they're going to be all over our houses. It's already approved, and it's outside of our hands all the time. So I think this is gonna pale in comparison to what we're gonna see. I think, I don't know how to put it, but some of what I think what Gwen just said about not being a council position, it really, in our business, because we're thinking of this, of what I'm hearing, because I get people's concern, because I know it's noisy, and because I live next to Tampa General, I hear helicopters 24/7. So I get it, I understand. But we're thinking of this in a vacuum. You're thinking of as Tampa PD helicopters and the citizens and this as if this was the only thing that's going on. We live in a major aviation environment with a major international airport, an Air Force base, a lot of general, Peter O'Knight, Tampa Executive, St. Pete Clearwater, St. Albert Whitted. We have a lot. This is one of the most densely used airspace in the country, this area. And so just because Tampa PD or any user of the aviation system wants to be somewhere, they're not entitled to be there. They have to be controlled and segregated and separated from other aircraft. Recognize, especially because we are so lucky to have Tampa International in our urban area, but one of the downfalls of that is the aviation people coming and going from there is also over our neighborhoods. The two runways that are mostly used by air carriers are north-south runways. So aircraft are either taking off or landing on these north-south runways. So when they talk about like South Tampa, you can't have helicopters orbiting or circling in that approach path or flight path or departure on either end of the runways because of that situation. So you have to build in separation and segregation from that traffic, from the other traffic that's coming and going. And I previously talked about this east-west traffic that comes over the top of International. And there's a lot of traffic. And one of the other things that I think was key on, and I know he hit on this, was the pilot training and currency time in the helicopter, both day and night. The problem to get that currency time and to make it useful, if you're trying to fly during the day, you're competing for a very small piece of airspace with a lot of other airplanes. In other words, air traffic control, which owns the airspace and ensures the safety and keeps the airplanes from touching, would deny those, if it's just a routine, would deny it because honestly there's no space for them during the day in close proximity to Tampa International, which is anywhere between 5 miles of Tampa International, which covers all the areas we're talking about. There's just no space because there's so many other things going on. So when these things happen, generally they're in communication with the air traffic control tower. It's during the day it's a highly congested airspace and it's very tough to manage. And it is so not only the safety of the police officers, the safety of the public that's down on the ground, and then the air traffic thing. It's like this is a problem that isn't going to find a solution in City Council. Thank you,
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. And thank you very much. And by the way, for council, part of my leaving in and out of council, I'm dealing with issues with my mother's medical care and some issues like that, and making a lot of calls. So just for the public, my apologies. I was going to say that, no, first of all, thank you for your presentation. And we've had discussions before on your time here in Tampa and your very strong love for our city of Tampa as a resident here, and like all of Tampa Police Department and whatnot. So thank you very much. I think the real issue with this is I like to have a saying, which is you can't change somebody, but you can tame their excesses. And I think everybody agrees that to the extent that any disruption from neighborhoods on public safety issues can be held, let's do it. Y'all agree 110%. There's obviously no need, in my opinion, to curtail helicopter issues that are for public safety to go catch folks who need to be caught. And I think that's the summary of where we're at on this, I think. And that's it. Thank you.
Then I'll close it out with thank you for the presentation. I live across from the hospital, so I hear the helicopter go over all the time in the night. I've just gotten used to it. But, your presentation on showing the videos and how very specific it is in catching criminals and how efficient it is because it's, you know, when seconds count, it's there. You know, it's very complicated because you're preventing catastrophes from happening and putting other people at risk, or losing evidence such as a firearm getting buried in a backyard or tossed out of a window or tossed, you know, whatever. And you're finding the suspects very quickly. So I understand everybody's concerns, but I understand the efficiency and how if, you know, how it makes sense and why we have it and why it operates as it does. So thank you very much. Next up, I think you're talking about number 30 regarding security
Counsel.
concerns for
Have a
council
great day.
members. Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. Megan Newcomb, Assistant City Attorney, addressing item number 30, Councilman Carlson's motion regarding the security. We did file a memorandum just to give you all an update. I did reach out and speak with most of you and take your concerns regarding security here at City Council as well in Old City Hall, and discuss that internally with the Tampa Police Department. And it's our recommendation that we do a little bit of a follow-up analysis based on some of the concerns raised, and then present that to council, and then you all can make some decisions about any changes that you'd like to make moving forward.
And you're saying you will once again meet with us one-on-one and then update us later, or?
We're going to do, Detective Barbosa is working on the analysis, and then I'm going to get with Mr. Shelby, and we're going to figure out the best way that we can convey the information to you all, whether it be one-on-one or whether it be all together. We're going to work out those details depending.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate
think that's fair.
would like Mr. Shelby to stand right there during council.
Can I just say thank you
Yes, sir.
to you all for taking this seriously and for the thoroughness of it, and appreciate all the work that you and TPD are going to be doing going forward.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I forgot to say, point of order, I'm the one that's supposed to accommodate.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
I just would like a little bit more context about this. This is a safety issue, what, after you leave meetings at night or something? Or,
If we can, I'd appreciate, have you had the opportunity to speak to Councilwoman Henderson?
I did not.
Can you update the councilwoman?
I will,
you can.
absolutely. Yes,
at a
ma'am.
later date, you don't have to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
here.
Yes, ma'am. I'll speak with you individually. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. All right, we have items number 28 and 29. I see Justin Vasquez in the audience. Yes, sir? Yes.
26?
Oh, I'm sorry, 26, yes.
Could I set that up also? Is somebody here to speak on it?
Go ahead. Councilman Carlson. that
Yeah,
was
the
your
idea
motion.
here is that there was an ordinance in effect years ago to fine people for putting leaves in the street. But 2 or 3 years ago, we changed the hours of operation to allow people to sleep more. And we also, I think, doubled the fine. And so we're seeing more and more videos pop up online of people not just blowing leaves into the street, but blowing them into the gutters. And the problem is, just before we started, some of us started 4 years ago, the city spent, I think, $2 or $3 million just going through cleaning out the gutters. And so, especially in South Tampa, folks complain about flooding. One of the reasons why there was flooding is because leaves and tree limbs and things are being shoved down the stormwater gutters. And so, with the concern about flooding, which is happening a lot now, and also other environmental damage, just wondering, like, just a quick overview of what the city's doing to assure the residents that they are enforcing this, because we anecdotally see a lot of it happening. And what should somebody do if they see somebody blowing these things into the street?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Susan.
Hi, good afternoon, Councilmember Susan Wenrick with Neighborhood Enhancement. To date, we started assisting stormwater with this problem in 2017. So to date, we have done 175 investigations. We've issued 45 citations. They range anywhere from $75 to $450. How it's enforced is, first, it's personal observation by the code officer as it's occurring, or evidence that we have received from a person charged with the enforcement of a city code, such as stormwater personnel or mobility. And then we also do investigation of complaints that are received in the customer service center. And I do know that stormwater has a very proactive educational piece that they do. They do through social media. They also provide a citywide training program called Municipal Stormwater Pollution Prevention, Stormwatch, that the employees will sign on and take. I think it's done like on an annual basis. So we take this matter very, very seriously. We're very aggressive with it, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any questions? Councilmember Clendenin, Councilmember Miranda.
Yeah, I applaud Councilman Carlson for bringing this to everyone's attention, because I witnessed it firsthand as well. And it seems to me it's not necessarily the homeowners that are problematic, but it's these landscape companies that are problematic, which I think maybe we need to look at reassessing these fees too, to make it more punitive if they're doing something like this. Because you know, sometimes if the fees are too low, it's better to ask for forgiveness, pay the fee, and move on but maybe it's more punitive.
Or another round of education at the.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's definitely problematic. I see it, and I also I see the post about it as well.
Yes. And our team takes a stack of brochures with them. So if we see a landscape company and we think that they might be leading in that direction, we go ahead and pass out the brochure, stop and talk to them and chit chat just to educate them. Because a lot of the people that they hire, they're not aware they're blowing that stuff out into the street that ends up into the gutter or the storm drain. They may not realize it's a problem. So we take a proactive approach and just hand out brochures as we go through our day.
Are those brochures in both Spanish and English?
Oh, I'm not sure that. The ones I have are English.
You may wish to consider doing
That's a
one in
great
Spanish
idea.
as well.
That's a great idea.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, this is something that's been on the book for a long time. I don't know when and I'm saying you all do a fantastic job, there's no doubt about that. But I'll give you 2 instances. One morning, some years back, that's what started all this. I'm driving down Henderson Boulevard, right in the corner there of Swan. There's I believe that's what the location, there's a water hydrant, and I see this big truck filling up. And I drove by, and I go back, I didn't see no city seal on it. So I get off the car being smart, like I am stupid. And I tell him, hey, what are you doing with the water? He said, well, I'm taking it. I said, well, you're taking it too. Well, I got a business, I got to run some water to. That was number one. Taking the water from a fire hydrant. Number two, on the corner of Gomez, of Gomez and Lake Avenue. I'm came one day from an afternoon city council, and there's another guy there doing the same thing. And I get up again and I ask him. And the water department told me they're right, but we got to catch them. I said, well, I can testify. I saw them.
Get photos.
No, listen. But what's and I hope I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about in general. I don't know when this started enforcing, but I don't think it was until recently. And this has been on the books for at least 8 or 10 years. I remember this ordinance specifically. However, some of our own subcontractors that we're paying to do the services are the ones that are doing this, along with thousands of homeowners that don't even know there's an ordinance. That's a problem we have. They don't understand it. So we'll make a motion. We do this a lot in the water department when they send out the total bill, including the water. Not looking for an argument. And what it is, maybe in that billing cycle, we can put in one cycle for 2 or 3 months saying, do not put in English and in Spanish, do not put this on the city street or put it in the curb or put it inside the drainage. You're going to get fined. And that should maybe solve it. Sometimes you won't, but then you folks that come along when that's happening and say, hey, now because I don't think the public really knows. They're doing it so often. And at that time, we asked all the city departments that are driving, including the police department, including the people working solid waste, to report to us. I don't know if they have. All I know, I never heard back. But that's what we did way back. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Very good. Next up is Justin Vasky. Item 28.
Good afternoon, Justin Vasky, Legal Department. I have provided City Council with a compilation of fee resolutions. As you can see, it's pretty lengthy, but I'm here to answer any questions regarding
Any
this.
questions from councils? I know this was brought up earlier regarding fees. I have it here. Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. Yes, this is part of why, I mean, we were having a discussion about the changing of fees, and this is certainly obviously going to be a very lengthy process. So I'm actually going to make a motion around this when we're finished discussing that we send this to the Citizens Budget and Finance Advisory Committee to work with the Department of Revenue and Finance and Legal to just, you know, for the citizens themselves to start to look through those fees and say, hey, maybe we should look at these. I know that we have had folks in public comment, Mrs. Pointer specifically, and she is on that committee, so I think that's probably a great place to start, but it doesn't prevent us as a city and the departments from going through the fees as well. Just taking a look, from my understanding, it is difficult to just put them on an annual increase basis, correct?
Right, and I can speak to that. And as you know, the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee recommended that the fees be indexed to the rate of inflation. And I would caution City Council against a one-size-fit-all solution to fee increases. But nevertheless, the city does have broad home rule authority to impose certain types of fees. For instance, user fees, impact fees, regulatory fees, building code inspection fees, and franchise fees. However, each of these fees have their own criteria. They may be governed by state law, and they can't be adjusted the same way. So I think it would be important if we're gonna look at these fees, review each fee individually to determine whether the adjustment or the increase is lawful and whether they comply with city policy.
All right, that's a great idea and motion from Councilwoman Hurtak to refer this to the.
I need to read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I just said, if anyone else wants to speak before I make the motion.
That's a great idea.
Just recommend we not do that though, right? So-
No, he's,
Did you,
no, I mean, we have worked this out. We've had this conversation.
I recommended that we review the fees, so.
Just review,
Yeah, that's what we're
just
doing.
review
saying
them, dues.
don't put an automatic annual increase.
Yeah.
But not upon automatic annual,
Yeah.
okay, very
Is-
good.
Any chance that anybody from CFO's office or somebody has looked at the fees to try to figure out what level of revenue could be generated? You know, if we could, as someone said this morning, if we could increase user fees rather than increasing ad valorem taxes, I wonder what kind of revenue we could generate.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's actually part of the reason I wanted to do this. This is going to be a much lengthier process than I think any of us realized. Did not realize there was 600 pages of them. So I'm going to start with this motion, and then if we could ask each department, but I think this is probably a good space because I feel like the Citizens Advisory Committee, A, they're the citizens, and B, they have an interest in finance and following the budget.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, and a couple of things. I think, just so you know, that when the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee meets, both a representative from Revenue and Finance is there, as is Mr. Vasky, as is myself. So the department and the city is represented, and the legal department is represented. Also, with regard to criteria, and not to take any time, but there's certain legal criteria that, depending on the fees, they are not taxes, they are fees.
And yeah, that's the risk if, you know, we don't ever want our fee to become an unlawful tax. So there's things you have to consider.
Fees are not necessarily generated to create revenue. That's
No.
not their purpose, is that correct?
Many regulatory fees, for instance, have to be commensurate with the regulatory activity, for instance.
Okay, so then I move to request that the Citizens Budget and Finance Advisory Committee work with the assistance of the Revenue and Finance and Legal Departments over the course of the next budget year to identify fees in the city that need to be adjusted and provide recommendations to City Council of those fees that may be appropriate for adjustments or increases, considering the factors that weigh in the setting of fees. This does not prevent the administration, after their own due diligence, from bringing forth recommendations for fee changes.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak. Do we have a second? I heard Carlson. Carlson with the second.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
I want to say, that doesn't prevent them to waiting until they're done
No.
with all of them. They can bring them to us.
No, I'm
piecemeal,
just saying, yes,
Okay.
and I would recommend that they come back to us piecemeal.
Piecemeal.
But that was kind of hard to
Right.
make, we discussed that, and making that motion is difficult.
Right.
But we could, and I hate to even say like quarterly because we don't
Right.
know, but you know, as
But that's the intent,
well,
yeah.
the idea is because we already have the Revenue and Finance Committee as a part of this, and Mr. Shelby is part, and the legal department is part of this organization or the committee, that they know well enough when to stop and say, oh, okay, these might group nicely together to bring to council on a periodic basis. And then, I mean, I actually meet with my appointee to the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee every month. So that's something that we would talk about during our conversation.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing this forward. That's great. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good motion, good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last item on the agenda is item number 29, legislative update. Yes, ma'am?
Good afternoon. Let me hand out the. So we have a PowerPoint presentation for this item.
Yes, ma'am. And now on the main TV screen. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. Where's the,
Thank you. It should be
The
right
clicker.
there on your right. No?
I don't see the clicker.
Somebody stole the clicker. There's a police officer. He
Oh,
stole the
yeah.
clicker.
You got something?
There it is.
Oh, thank you. There's the clicker. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Dana Crosby Collier. I'm with the City Attorney's Office, and I'm here with members of the City Attorney's Office today to provide a brief legislative update of the 2023 session. In the 2023 session, there were 1,828 bills introduced, 356 passed during the 60-day session. It was a very active session. This presentation today is split up into two parts. We're going to start out with land use and development, and then we'll go into general government. The bulk of the presentation today actually is land use and development. There was a lot of activity this year, as you all are aware from reading the paper and different seminars that you've attended. It was a very busy session, and a lot of things changed. The first bill I'll call to your attention is House Bill 89. It takes effect July 1 of 2023. This bill is related to building construction, and essentially what the bill does is it prohibits the city or a county from making any substantive changes to plans after they have the permits issued, unless it's required by the Florida Building Code or the Fire Prevention Code. If there is some change necessary, then the person requesting the change would have to put the reason in writing. So we looked at Chapter 5 of the City Code and determined we really don't need to do an amendment to the code, but just wanted to make you all aware of this law. The next slide is our comp plan amendment slide. And there are two bills I wanted to bring to your attention, Senate Bill 1604 and Senate Bill 540. 1604 was a big comprehensive plan initiative effective July 1, excuse me, that increases the planning periods for planning under the comprehensive plan from 5 to 10 years and from 10 to 20 years. Of note for the city, it does preempt local government authority over electrical substations, allowing these to be placed in all future land use and zoning categories with some exceptions that are noted in the bill. Senate Bill 540 is a bill that came through also under the comp plan umbrella. It allows the prevailing party to recover attorney's fees if there's a challenge in defending a comp plan amendment or the comp plan. So whoever the prevailing party is could then seek fees. So if the city's the prevailing party, then the city could seek fees from the petitioner. There's a lot of objection to this bill from groups like the Thousand Friends of Florida and others who didn't want to do this. They really pressured the governor to veto it, but it did pass. And it also clarifies the scope of review for denial of a development order.
How so?
That's a good question. So the challenger must show the development order will alter the use, density, or intensity, and that it's not consistent with the comp plan. The next one is Senate Bill 170. 170 is relating to local ordinances. This bill actually came under the umbrella of, well, this thing had it had three portions, so I'll start with the first one. The first one is that it authorizes an action challenging certain ordinances if filed within 90 days of adoption. The challenge must be based on preemption or arbitrary and unreasonable, and the city must suspend the ordinance during the challenge. In the law, it's written that also the court will fast-track this challenge. So we'll see how that all works out with the caseloads the courts have now. But I wanted to mention to you, give you an idea of the certain types of ordinances that are covered under Senate Bill 170. And they are not your budget ordinances, they're not your procurement ordinances, they're not your LDRs or your comp plan ordinances or ordinances relating to any of the building codes, but they are ordinances that, something like rent control or single-use plastics, ordinances of a substantive nature. These same types of ordinances will have to have prepared for them a business impact estimate. Now, this bill takes effect 10/1 of '23, so there's still a couple of months before it takes effect. But the city would have to prepare a business impact estimate for an ordinance, for example, let's say single-use plastics, that would show the ordinance's purpose, the estimated economic impact on businesses, and our compliance costs. So that has to be included. There's a lot of traffic on the local government law listserv right now on this bill, and what do they mean by that? Because nothing's really well defined in any of this legislation, frankly. But what came up at a conference recently is, you know how they do in the bill analysis when it has the economic impact estimate, and they say, the economic impact is undetermined at this time, you know, because we have to implement it. So I've seen a lot of traffic on the listserv. If it's indeterminate, it's indeterminate, and that is what we would state. But in most cases, you are expected to at least attempt to include the ordinance's purpose, the estimated business impact, and the compliance costs. The next one was this bill is a doozy, I guess, as my mother would say. It's all over the place. It came in under the umbrella of Hurricane Ian recovery down in South Florida. It was pushed by the South Florida community because of Ian. But it does a lot, and I want to make sure you're all aware of this particular bill. First, it freezes building inspection fees from January 1, 2023, this past January, to June 30th, 2025. So you can't raise your building inspection fees in that time period. It allows people to erect a temporary structure, like a camper or something, on their property while they're rehabbing their property after there's been a natural disaster. And that temporary structure can remain on the property for up to 3 years. You probably are familiar with the permit extension that's under the current law. So anytime there's a natural disaster or an emergency declaration, permits get automatically extended 6 months, and this can go on forever. When I was with Orange County, we had Zika, we had hurricanes, we had all kinds of stuff that would continue to expand the time life of the permits. Well, they changed the 6-month period to 24 months, but they also added that that period cannot exceed 48 months. So at least now we have, it's a longer initial period, but we have a cutoff. And finally, relative to Tampa and Hillsborough County as well, is that the first bullet is pretty obvious. This is relative to the areas that were impacted by Nicole and Ian, and it just says that the government can't adopt a moratorium on construction, reconstruction, or redevelopment. But the second two are the bullets I want to call your attention to. These expire, they take effect September 28th of last year, the date that Ian hit, and they expire October 1 of 2024. And during this time period, if you're within 100 miles of where one of the hurricanes made landfall, you cannot, a city or county cannot propose or adopt more restrictive or burdensome amendments to the comp plan or land development code, nor can they propose or adopt more restrictive or burdensome procedures for review, approval, or of a site plan development permit or development order. So what I've suggested when we've met as staff on this issue is that we include a recital in our ordinances that indicates that we have determined that this ordinance will not impose, an unreasonable, or, I'm sorry, more restrictive or burdensome impact on the community. It's not a very well, the bill is just a bunch of text. There's no definition for what restrictive or burdensome means. It extends 100 miles from where these hurricanes made landfall, which is all over the state, or the central part of the state. And this is one that was a rough bill to see come to actually get signed by the governor. But it was tied to a huge budget also, some money for some loans down for South Florida rehab and whatnot after the hurricane. So it was kind of a foregone conclusion that it was going to pass. I have 3 more on the land use, and then I'll tell you about a couple that didn't pass but we'll be looking for next year. So for the land use, Senate Bill 718 was essentially an annexation. It came in under the annexation umbrella, annexation and contraction processes. But it prohibits an initiative or referendum for a land development regulation, which isn't an issue for Tampa, but it is for some other cities. And it also requires a feasibility study prior to annexation. Senate Bill 1068, I think it's kind of interesting. We were just talking about drones and the future life of air traffic. Senate Bill 1068 preempts the siting of a drone delivery service operation based on the location of the drone port. So the drone port can go pretty much wherever, and when it gets into a zoning category, then we can enforce our landscaping regulations and setback requirements at that location, but we can't disallow the drone port to be placed in that location. We don't currently have anything like this right now in the city. We had a permit come through a few years ago for one out in New Tampa at the Walmart. I think it was the Walmart area up in New Tampa, but they never actually built the drone port. But we are, your planning department is aware of this, and we'll keep you posted if anything comes up. Finally, for those bills that pass, residential tenancies, House Bill 1417. This preempts all aspects of residential tenancies to the state. We have Chapter 12 of our code that has the Tenant Bill of Rights, and for the most part, that's been preempted by the state. It preempts screening, notice, deposits, fees, leases, disclosures, notice requests. Anything you find in Chapter 83, the landlord-tenant statute, you find is been preempted. Talked to some other cities and counties around the state about their enforcement of this, and I was talking to someone in Orange County, and they pointed out that it does not preempt fair housing, which is Chapter 760 of the statutes, but it does preempt residential tenancies. So a couple more. These bills failed, but they're likely going to be back. I'm sure you read a lot about vacation rentals throughout session because it was well in the press. In the bill, they sought to regulate advertising and allow cities to establish a registration system for short-term rentals. A lot of it had to do, I believe, with getting revenue for those and sales tax when these are rented. This bill died in House messages. The second one was one that you can tell by the bill number, House Bill 1317, Senate Bill 1346. It was filed kind of late in the game. In fact, it was filed on March 1st, and session started March 7th. This bill would have prohibited local governments from prohibiting, restricting, or preventing the demolition of certain structures when they're seaward of the coastal construction control line. It did exempt it did exempt buildings that are on the National Register of Historic Places, and it also exempted single-family homes. But it went pretty broad, and it had all kinds of momentum. It was going through all the committees, passing out of committee, and then there was an amendment, I think, in the Senate, and when they sent it back to the House didn't pick the bill out of the message, so that means that it died. So that bill lost momentum in the last week. It, like watching a train try to stop on the tracks. I mean, all of a sudden, it was just dead.
What was the amendment?
I don't remember exactly. I was tracking it back in session, but that ended in May, so I can't remember that amendment. But it will be filed again. Everyone's confident. The Florida Association of Historic Preservation is tracking it. The League of Cities was tracking it. A lot of your associations were tracking it. So that one will be back and probably vacation rentals. Unfortunately, they weren't looking to not preempt us in vacation rentals, but they were looking to do a couple other things. So with that, I'll turn it over to McLean Evans, and she's going to kick off general government.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. McLean Evans, Assistant City Attorney. Speaking of bills that came late in the session, this one was quite unusual just in the format in terms of how it was introduced. It wasn't your typical start in the committees, move to the respective Senate House floor, come to agreement, finalize. Rather, on the last night of budget discussion, the House presented an offer to the Senate, which the Senate accepted under the budget, which allotted $250,000 to University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences to evaluate the effectiveness and timing of seasonal fertilizer application on urban landscapes towards achieving nutrient target objectives for water bodies statewide. So basically evaluating whether or not fertilizers contribute nutrients to waterways. And with that, which is highly unusual, a preemption was tied, preemption language written into the budget associated with this line item that prevents all municipalities from either adopting or amending fertilizer ordinances until next year, July 1st, 2024. This is likely a very bright signal that the legislature has intentions to preempt municipalities and counties from adopting any further changes to their fertilizer ordinances. As I believe you all probably know, the city has had one in place since 2011, so this doesn't necessarily affect us right now, but for if we wanted to make changes, but in my discussions with Stormwater, there were no plans to propose changes this year, but rather to just make you aware that more than likely this indicates next year's legislative session may be discussing something that could potentially negate the city's regulation of fertilizer application. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to Emma Gregory with Transportation.
Good afternoon, Council. Emma Gregory, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here to talk about two bills. The first one is a bill that effectively dissolved the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority. It repealed all the related statutes and also ordered TBARTA to basically divide its remaining resources among the 5 partner counties. This wasn't a huge surprise given that the governor had vetoed their line item budgets for the 3 preceding years. But TBARTA is no longer in existence. The next bill is applies to the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority. It basically sets forth the legislative intent to have the Florida Department of Transportation conduct a study about, let's see what it's about. It has the goal of streamlining decision-making, improving transparency, and enhancing the effectiveness of local and regional public transit service delivery. A report is due from FDOT by January 1st of 2024, so we'll await the results of that report. But those were the transportation items that were before the legislature this year. And that's my report, and so I'll turn it over to Carl Brody. Okay, super.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Afternoon, Council. Carl Brody with the Legal Department. And I'm here to just quickly go over what happened with the legislature for cemeteries. HB 49, we see that we've established a historic cemeteries program with the Department of State. What that's going to do is it's going to provide more opportunity for us in terms of finding and labeling any African-American, lost African-American cemeteries that, that we can find during this time. So it'll further allow us to place markers on those sites, and that's an important issue because we want to be able to, oftentimes these sites are already built over, so this allows us to put markers down, which is sometimes becomes an issue. So that's a good addition. We're also going to, it's also going to provide grants for us. And the grants are for us to be able to repair and restore and maintain lost African-American cemeteries. And, you know, we've found a couple of African-American cemeteries here, so we'll be able to take advantage of that and be able to get some grants from the department. They're right now putting their rules together, so once those rules are promulgated, then we'll be able to move forward and attempt to get some of those to help the cemeteries we have. And finally, it creates the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Council, and that's a council just statewide. Importantly, here at USF, we have our own program, and we can help. We can use them to help in finding the cemeteries and being able to maintain and treat those cemeteries in the respect that they deserve. So, if you have any questions, I'm here.
Yes,
You can
yes,
contact
ma'am.
me. Yeah.
Yes, is Dr. Jackson at University of South Florida, is she involved in this advisory council?
They have not chosen the advisory council yet, but they'll be chosen from statewide. And
Okay.
I'm sure she will be included. Even if she's not, USF is very involved,
Yeah.
so we'll be able to take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Brody, thank you as always. Now, I wanted to give a shout out to my state representative and my dear friend and colleague, Representative Fentress Driscoll, who did this. You know, major kudos to Representative Driscoll, who is just a superstar in Tampa and the state of Florida, an amazing leader. It says a lot, and I'm going to bring up political party here, that she is not just a registered Democrat, she is the House Democratic leader. And in Tallahassee, which is not your father's Tallahassee, that's all I'm going to say, she got this through, passed the House, passed the Senate, and Governor DeSantis signed it. That really shows you a woman and a leader who is collaborative and fights for what she believes in and makes common ground and builds bridges. And such an important issue that Representative Driscoll just does such a great job in advocating for. So I just especially wanted to highlight our state representative in District 63, who is just a Florida superstar and one of my favorite elected officials in Florida, one of probably my second behind Kathy Castor. There you go. Thank you.
So what you're saying is a great future attorney general or governor?
Or governor, U.S. senator.
That's what I
whatever.
heard. That's what I heard.
And a
I'm all
member of
for
Delta
that.
Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Yes, very well said.
Did she go to Jefferson?
No,
She went to Harvard.
she went to
I mean, Harvard's good, but it's not-
Lake Gibson, I believe, in Lakeland, and yeah, she went to Georgetown Law School and Harvard. I always joke that she's jealous of me because I went to USF and she only went to Harvard. So there you go.
There you go.
Hey, all right.
All right, thank you.
Do you
Finally- did you have any more for me?
Okay, next up
If
is
not,
the last
Marcella
slide.
Ham?
Yes, ma'am. Lots and lots.
There we go.
There.
Not enough. Just kidding.
Afternoon, Marcy Hamilton, Assistant City Attorney. I have the final legislative information. This is on ethics, primarily the elections we deleted. Not that the law didn't pass, but anyway. This concerns, it's not House bill, it was Senate Bill 774, which came into effect on 5/11, May the 11th of 2023. The change primarily affects mayor and all city council. You now will have to file Form 6, which is the full and public disclosure of financial interest instead of Form 1. And this will all be through the State Commission of Ethics. You will receive an email regarding your notice of having to file. It won't go through the supervisor of elections anymore. This starts in January 1st of 2024. So things are covered for this year, so it's not until next year.
But we file a Form 6 with the city. Now we take it to
Yes.
the state level. So it's
Correct.
business as usual, but to the state. So,
Correct.
okay.
The difference with that is now you can also file your income tax return.
Instead of having to do the
You
form?
can file, but you also have to include all the attachments and any schedules that were included with your tax return.
You don't have to.
So there are instructions, there already are instructions online, how to fill out any question and answer session, and it's all done through the Commission on Ethics.
Yep, and we did it as candidates. We had to file it electronically anyhow, so we're a step ahead essentially. Yes, sir.
This bill has major impact on other municipalities throughout the state. Tampa's ethics code for years now has required your full financial disclosure
So it's the same.
for the
yeah.
city's ethics code.
Yeah.
But now, every municipality throughout the state will have to do what Tampa elected officials have done for years.
We are pioneers and trailblazers.
The cutting edge.
In being in
Cutting.
financial business.
All right. And then it's all electronic now.
Totally electronic, nothing through the supervisory elections, all goes through the state.
In effect, now it actually simplifies, because remember how you were always discovering
Yeah, you have,
which
this
form?
one's due on July 1st, and over here it's July 15th, and, you know.
And two
But you'll have
different
the
forms.
same form.
Yeah,
So-
Form 1, Form 6, so.
But it will be the same form, so you just file, the cities comes a little bit after, so, but July 1, you have to file with the state, so you can just deliver that form to the city also.
Very
Okay?
good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the agenda. New business, Councilmember Carlson.
Hey, I would just like to make a quick motion to ask the clerk to extend the calendar out till the end of July.
Second?
Extend the calendar to July of 24.
Yeah, 24, just so we can start planning for vacations next year.
Okay.
Because you know what happened this year anyway. The rates go up the longer you wait. So I'd just like to make a motion to ask the city clerk to extend our calendar July.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with the second Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Shelby.
as part of that motion, just so you know, it would come back to council for its approval. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? Because you will determine, so they know in advance, when you'd be making council's recess. Okay, I just want to make that, is that okay? Is
So
that
how-
part of
Thank
the
you.
motion? Thank you.
So do we just want it to permanently go?
12 months out.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Can we just go ahead and say instead, let's just make it go 12 months out, period?
Yeah.
And that way, we don't have, because if you're saying July, then they're not gonna, next time, they're not gonna do August, you
So
know?
normally we provide a calendar in December, so, but we can extend it to July 2024 instead of May 2024. So if you want to permanently
Can we,
have that done in the
can we do it on a rolling 12 months? Is that okay?
That's fine.
So I'll just modify my motion to say, to ask the clerk to modify the calendar on a revolving 12-month basis.
All right. We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ahead.
We have some dueling, this is just basically a cleanup. I move to continue the staff reports, quote unquote, the city staff and a representative of Sierra Club to report on how the city can modify the state law SB 64 or DEP guidelines regarding wastewater reuse / pure, unquote, scheduled for 8/24/23 to the 8/31/23 workshop that already has the citizen stakeholder group scheduled to discuss the funding left in the PLC contract, Senate Bill 64, and minimum flows on the Hillsborough River, etc. Basically, we're just gonna put all the water stuff on one day instead of 2 days.
That's fine.
And
Yes, Mr. Shelby?
will the clerk be able to group those together on the agenda? Thank you.
And what day was that?
It's just the workshop day.
Okay.
So before, we had a presentation the week before during regular session, so we just thought it would be best to combine them to that workshop session.
That works. Motion from Councilmember Hurtak. Did we have a second?
Carlson.
Second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Clendenin.
I motion to have staff report back to council on the different possible options of how to, the construction of a fixed rail extension of the streetcar to Palm Avenue could be funded and a timeline by which it could be built with those different financial scenarios. I request staff to come back and report on September 19th, the first budget public hearing.
Mr. Shelby, did you, first? Is the second?
I'm sorry, second budget, September 19th.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just.
It's during a second budget public
Mr.
hearing.
Massey?
Yeah, this is probably an item that should not be addressed during the budget hearing. The budget hearing should be addressing the budget solely. We can certainly
I kind of
report to you
figured it was
before
kind
then.
of budget related, this one.
And again, I'm sorry, if you just could, for my own edification, I was just distracted for a minute. Could you just repeat exactly what it is you were asking for?
I said, the motion was, I motioned to have the staff report back to council on the different possible options of how the construction of a fixed rail extension of the streetcar to Palm Avenue could be funded and a timeline by which it could be built with those different financial scenarios.
Yeah, well, that's a good motion, sir, I understand, but I agree with Mr. Massey that it's not appropriate to do a staff report for something that's off budget purposes, specific for the budget. We actually literally do have to, according to
during
state
the
law,
workshop?
we have to follow a script.
Yeah, let's do it during the workshop.
What about during the workshop that
Do
we
we have time
scheduled
to
at
do that?
August
Well,
20th?
if I could direct council's attention to your calendar, to the workshop
That's
for
true.
August.
That's
Because I
true,
want
you're
to,
right,
I just
Jeff.
want to remind you, what?
The budget workshop on the 20th.
Lynn's good at giving me dates. Give me a date.
To schedule for the budget workshop itself. Oh, the budget workshop itself is for Monday,
it's
Monday.
only-
Yeah, that's not enough
That's
time.
not
That's
enough
not enough time for them to get to that.
So well, if you want it during a workshop, September's packed.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. That's the problem.
So October workshop is empty.
October 5th,
Ish. 26th,
26th.
October 26th.
Okay, October 26th, you say.
We have only, 3 items. Oh, however, we're gonna be,
Two members are gonna be gone.
2 members are gonna be gone, so we were trying not to put anything.
Right, it's us.
I know, we were trying not to put anything in
You're the
October.
problem.
We'll
It's-
carry the
CRA,
torch.
we're not a
We'll carry the
problem, it's just the
You're the
CRA
problem,
conference.
it's-
Yeah, which everybody should be going to.
Yeah, we're not a problem. Mr. Glendon, so.
You're the problem.
November 30th,
Good Lord.
Is that too
November
far?
30th?
it's a workshop.
You could
Then
do
we're going to the
You don't
next
have to do
budget.
it as a
If you
workshop,
don't,
though.
if you, if,
Yeah, what's the meeting this, what do we have some time on the meeting?
if you'd like a staff report, if you can keep it within a short
I
period
know,
of
we're
time.
trying to find one. How about September
Well,
21st?
I'll be honest with you, this
We're
is one of
open.
those things
September
that
21st.
I'd be fine with a written report.
Yeah, how about September 21st?
I mean,
Can I say,
just wanna get this going, in
There you go.
more definitive, concrete. So save our council time.
September 21st.
September 20th.
this came up a few months ago, before you all started, in CRA, and we had an initial vote to try to look at funding it through CRA, and some numbers were thrown out. But, so somebody in staff has already done research
Right.
on it, and I don't know if you talked to them, but
I
it
have.
could be that, okay. But, yeah, if you just wanted to get a number, it sounded like they had a number already, and if you want to use it for negotiation.
What's this?
September 21st.
September 21st.
Staff report.
That's good.
Okay,
That's
so,
fine. If we need more time, we'll let you know. A written report typically is submitted to council on a specific date, and if you want more information, then
Anyway.
staff is available for questions.
okay, so I motion to have the staff report back to council on the different possible options of how the construction of a fixed rail extension of the streetcar to Palm Avenue could be funded and a timeline by which it could be built with those different financial scenarios. I request staff to come back to report on September 22nd. First, he said second. He hooked me right in. 21st. Okay.
Jedi mind tricks.
Exactly.
Motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, sir? Anything else?
That's it.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes, this is rather lengthy, so please be patient with me. I am bringing a motion regarding the minority small business caterers at the Event Center, Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park. I believe that there should be more diversity in the catering contract for the city for this particular event center. Our city regulations currently have only 8 preferred caterers, and all of them have liquor licenses. Well, I contend that every event that's held at the River Center, people do not actually have liquor at their events, especially city functions. And I've attended events there where there's been no liquor. So anyway, we need to expand this list. For the number one and primary reason is for equal business opportunity. For example, if a organization goes to Julian B. Lane Park and says, I want a black caterer, that's not possible because a black caterer doesn't have the liquor license and they're not on the preferred list. And so our preferred list needs to change where it is more inclusive of not just 8, but maybe possibly a process that staff can bring back where you meet qualifications so that you can do business at that facility because you've gone through some sort of training or something like that. But, staff can bring that back to us. So I also want them to provide the data of every event that's taken place with liquor and without, so that we can have this information when they come to staff. So with that being said, I also want to say that even the fees, and years ago in 2014 when this park was developed, it was supposed to be a community park, and the community cannot afford to utilize this particular park because it functions as if though it is an enterprise, and it is not an enterprise. It is actually under Parks and Recs. So therefore, I move that the City Parks Department report back to City Council on September 7th with a change in the above catering policy to address minority caterers, as well as possibly mobile bartenders who have bartending licenses but don't have catering licenses, and maybe they can pair together, to their preferred caterers list for events not involving the sale or consumption of liquor.
You may also want to address this to the purchasing department. I think there was an RFQ
Right.
that was placed.
ends-
They would have to issue another RFQ, I think, with different criteria potentially.
That is true, and so right now, what we're doing is just getting started with the
Right.
process, because eventually that contract will end with just those 8 caterers, who actually are currently have a huge monopoly. They're very expensive, and I might want to add. So anyway, but this is at least the beginning process of looking at changing it and being more customer service friendly. And just to give you a little bit of background, this past weekend, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity landed in the city of Tampa for their huge conclave, and they had food trucks. It was a private event. They had the River Center as a part of their event, and so the River Center was a VIP area. You had to have a wristband to get in there. One lady had her food she bought from the food truck, and she was trying to go into the River Center because she had a VIP wristband, and we're telling an out-of-town guest, oh no, you can't go in there because that food is not a catered food. And it's just too complicated of a process. We should not be telling guests that you can't bring food to an event where the Kappas have already paid for this building. It shouldn't matter at that point. So our rules are a little bit less customer service friendly to our public as well as our guests. And I talked about this on the campaign trail, and I'm 90 days in, so it's time to do something about it.
We have a second.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Mr.
Carlson.
Carlson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else?
Nope.
Nothing. Councilman Vieira, yes?
Thank you very much. Two just reminders that on Monday is Purple Heart Day, and at 8 a.m. we'll be raising the flag outside of City Hall for Purple Heart Day with a ceremony, and everyone is invited and encouraged to come. It is at 8 a.m. because we have a Heart Board meeting right after that, so we have to make it at that time. And then, if you want to be disturbed, on Friday, we'll be having karaoke at Forest Hills at Babe Zaharias, and obviously everyone's invited and to sing and do whatever you will, but yeah, Guido and I always do that, but that's whoever may want to sing, etc. So have at it. And you know, he's actually a good singer. I'm awful, so.
I would just like to make a point that I was not invited to sing because you were intimidated by my beauty and my songbird voice.
That I am. You're Jerry Vale II. All right. And then very briefly, if I may, I motion on September 7th to have Walter Smith and his son Walter Smith III come and speak to council during Deaf Awareness Month on what that month means to them.
Second. We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye.
And then I motion have, and we can have this first week of November, to have, and I'll do the same thing in CRA. There's the Hive, which Councilwoman Hurtak and I know very well, the wonderful organization that seeks to provide affordable housing for people with disabilities, physical and intellectual disabilities, to have city staff meet with the leadership of the Hive on how we can improve accessible, disability-friendly housing within the city and some of their endeavors, and I'll have the same motion in CRA.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Vieira, second.
Yes, ma'am. Please. Thank you.
Motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
And that's it.
Anything else? All right. I'd just like to wish Martha Vila a happy early 90th birthday, which is going to be next Thursday, August 10th, but I want to get on it now. Happy birthday to Mrs. Martha Vila. And we have some special guests in the audience. I see, is Professor Joyce with us today? Yes, ma'am. Come on up and welcome to City Hall. I know you met with the mayor a little bit ago, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome to Tampa City Council. Welcome.
Thank you. So I am Professor Joyce Ashun-Tantang, and I'm the national president of the ex-SECA Students Association. these former students of an all-girls Christian boarding secondary school in Cameroon in Central Africa, who are now present in the United States. Seca Baptist College was founded in 1962 by the North American Baptists in conjunction with the Cameroon Baptist Association. So most of our earlier tutors and principal came from the United States. Maybe that accounts for many of us being out here now. And we're having our 22nd annual convention. We chose Tampa as a city. Interestingly, we don't have a physical chapter in Tampa. We have 12 chapters all over the United States. But because of the inclusive nature of the city, because of the good things we found about the city online, we decided that Tampa would be our city. And so this weekend, I have led close to 350 members of my association, including their children and their spouses. We are at the Western Tampa Waterside, and we'll be there till Sunday. And I understand that the mayor was very busy. She told me she would be busy this weekend with the budget and all that. But she gave us a proclamation, and we said, if she's not there, there are other members who would be there. So at least we should stop to say hello. And that is why we're here. I'm here with some members of my executive and some chapter presidents. So I have my organizing secretary here. Yes. And I have my, what do you call my chief whip? Besem Abayangasa. I have chapter presidents here from Minnesota, EXA Minnesota, Linda. EXA members at large, it's actually her chapter hosting the convention here. EXA New York, New Jersey, Dr. Constance indeed. And I have one of my key collaborators of the members at large chapter, Dr. Julie Bisson here. So, and we are wearing our national fabric. Yes. So, council members, it is our pleasure. You guys are doing something good here, that we could come from far away because of what you're doing and feel comfortable here, and we thought we should come here and share that.
Thank you for being here.
And I'm going to give you our
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to get a picture with you all before you leave on the steps right here in our wonderful lobby hallway.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
you all look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Councilman Vieira?
Oh, what day would be best for council members to come? Sunday morning? When does y'all's event end Sunday?
Our wish is tomorrow, because we have our opening ceremony.
Okay.
Tomorrow, it starts at 9 a.m. And if we could get members from this house, it would be our utmost pleasure, because we've beamed Tampa all over. You can see the proclamation is at the end of our magazine there, at the back, the cover page. And all over Cameroon, they know that Tampa is hosting us. And it would be wonderful if in our opening ceremony we don't have so much, at least one council member will be happy. More than one, we will be dancing. More than two, you guys don't know what you'll be having.
If anybody else want to, I can't.
Councilman Clendenin?
I just want to say welcome to Tampa, and thank you for recognizing us as an inclusive, welcoming city. I think it's just one of the most important messages to send, especially with the politics of our state and our country, of where it's at, that we are a shining example for other communities of inclusivity and being welcoming. And I appreciate the fact that you guys found us and that you recognize that. And I know you're going to enjoy your time here, because we've got just incredible sights to see, and it's a wonderful place to be. And I think it'd be nice, and since I've been on it, we've never done this, but I think you guys should come up here and we take a picture with the seal and the council members up here, all of us up here with you.
Hey, be
Yeah,
good.
that'd be great.
Darlene, don't shake. Here, take a good one. You got your camera, so you'll do it for us.
Adjourn first
Can we get a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file.
Motion from Councilwoman Henderson, we have a second? Second from Carlson, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. All right, let's do this.